What's up, guys? What I'm going to tell you pretty much is going to go against all the freaking advice you hear on personal finance. All the coaches and the experts are going to tell you, oh, you have to have a budget. You got to have a budget, otherwise you're never going to be wealthy. If you don't have a budget, you got to have one. Rah, rah, rah. I'll tell you my story about budgeting. I stopped budgeting 2 years ago. Stop budgeting. I'll tell you why, right? But when I first started working and making income, for a year I didn't budget. So I started working in mid-2014. I started budgeting right at the end of 2015 and kept my budget going, kept my budgeting habit going through the end of 2018 when I left my job. So I had a solid 3 years of really budgeting. And hey, it paid off. Making a budget was one of the greatest things that I have done in my life. But the reason I'm making this video is because a lot of people are going to watch this and think, oh, I should go make a budget. That's going to solve my problem. And it's not going to solve your problem. Because you probably made a budget before. You probably installed Mint or set up Mint or some other app, some free app, budgeting app, Personal Capital. And 2, you don't really have a good reason to budget. If your reason to budget is you heard me say it and then you go set up a budget, it's not going to last. And then you blame the budget and you say, oh yeah, I tried budgeting, it didn't work. But it didn't work for what? The budget works. Every single budget works. Mint works. YNAB works. Every dollar works. Excel works. Putting people, crazy people, but they still do budgets on paper. Like they put the money in envelopes. That works still, even though I think it's a shitty method, it still works. There's nothing wrong with the budget, or the product, but a lot of people will try a budget just to budget and then blame the tool, like, oh, I didn't like it. So it doesn't work out for them. So I'm going to go through 2 things. I'm going to go through why you should budget, or no, not why, but when. I don't think that's even right to talk about because that's not a question that I can answer for you. But let me talk about why I budgeted, okay? And maybe that can help you relate into what might get you to budget. And I keep saying get you to budget, but it's not about that. It's not about that. And then the second thing I'll talk about is why I don't budget anymore. Why I've stopped that habit completely. It's just done with them. I'm not going to make a budget for my personal expenses anymore. I might do so for business expenses because that's a new category, a new field that I'm getting into is how do I run a business. But for personal expenses, I'm not going to budget anymore. Probably ever. Probably. Things might change. When I start a family or move or buy a house, all this stuff, things might change. But I don't see myself starting a budget anytime soon. The reason that I started budgeting was because I had a very clear objective in mind for what I wanted to achieve. It was a clear objective, and that objective was to get my savings rate as high as humanly possible, as high as I could get, without feeling like I was, was still maintaining a standard of living that was like allowed me to eat well and feel good. Like I wasn't trying to be homeless or anything. So I made a I wanted to get my financials in order, and I wanted to reach financial independence, and I wanted to do so in as little time as possible. And I made that decision. That was like an emotional decision, and then I backed it up with logic, right? Because that's how we make decisions. But I made that decision. I wanted this thing, and a budget was just part of the process. I tried a couple different budgets in the beginning and settled on one pretty quickly. After about a month of using a different budget, I used Excel first, and that I think I used it for like 2 weeks or something, and then I settled on another tool, settled on YNAB, and I've been using it ever since. But my point is that I didn't budget just to budget, right? I budgeted because I wanted to reach financial independence. That's why I budget. That's what got me to set it up. It wasn't like I'm putting the budget on a pedestal and like, I got to update the budget every day and I have to do these things. No, it was I wanted to be financial independence. I wanted to be somebody who was going towards financial independence, and that's just what somebody who is going towards financial independence does. They set up a budget. So the budget is meaningless, right? Everybody's talking about budgets like they're this key to mastering your finances. No, it's not the key. It is not the key. A budget is a tool. A budget is no different from money. A budget is no different from a car or gas or the freeway or the sign helping me see where the exit is. It's no different from this phone. It's no different from the computer that you're watching this video on. It's no different from my sunglasses. That's what a budget is. I mean, it's a thing. It's a thing that we invented. And it has a certain purpose. And for me, that purpose, and when you start budgeting, your purpose is probably going to be to plan your spending for the next month. Allocate where your money is going. That's what my original purpose for the budget was. So the budget was a tool that got me that number. Right? It's a number. It's an output. How much money did I spend last month? How much money am I going to spend this month? How much money am I going to budget for 2 months? What's my spending forecast for the year? Those are all numbers that your budget is going to give you. It's a freaking tool. It's nothing more than that. So why I stopped budgeting? Well, I stopped budgeting because I don't need to anymore. I don't have a need. I'm not trying to become financial independent anymore. I don't really care about what I'm not worrying about what my next month's expenses are going to be, because for 2 reasons. One, having budgeted already and having gone through that experience of getting to know myself, what I like to buy, what I like to eat, how I like to live, I already know that about myself. It's pointless for me to budget anymore because I'm just going to follow my budget. I forgot what I was going to say. So it's like it's already ingrained in me, right? If I don't track expenses at all, I just go and live my life, spend my money, I'm gonna be spending the same amount, plus minus maybe $200 or $300 every month. My required expenses, what I call my necessary OPEX, like rent, groceries, and insurance, that kind of thing, it's gonna be the same every month. Then there's discretionary things like dining out, eating out, going out, car expenses, like those are going to be what they are. They can range from $100 a month to maybe $1,000 in 1 month, but there's nothing like extraordinary that I'm trying to do with getting my spending under control now. That's not where I am anymore. It was when I was starting off, because I was buying a lot of shit and I didn't know where my money was going. But now I'm super conscious about that. So I don't need a budget to now help me keep my spending under control. I'm still using my budget though, and I'm not the way that I'm using my budget now is not a spending forecaster, but a historical record of what has happened. So I'll still go, and like every time I have a transaction, I'll categorize the transaction and log it, right? So that's what I use my budget for, is now a spending tracker. And they're very different things. Spending tracker is very different from a budget. Super different. But it's nice that the same tool that I use to budget is now my spending tracker. It's pretty nice, right? The only difference is that now at the beginning of the month, I don't go and put a number there. I just leave everything at 0, and I can see, okay, this is how much I spent last month. And there's pretty much no surprises anymore. There's no surprises. Yeah, there's some other benefits to having a budget that nobody really talks about. Like, it's great for detecting fraud. If somebody steals your credit card number online or whatever, and uses it to buy something that you didn't do, in 2 days, and you can call your credit card company, you're on top of it before they are. And when you do that, there's no way that you're going to get dinged for that, right? Because you're keeping an eye on stuff. I can't really think of anything else right now, but hey, that's it. That's quick and dirty on the budget. It's not making a budget is not going to do you any good if you're just making a budget to make a budget. It's not going to stick with you. It will serve its purpose if you're using the budget as a tool to get something done. Like, you have a problem, or you have a current state that you're in, right? You're in this current state. And you want to get over here to this state. This is your desired state. That's what you want to get. To go from here to there, it's going to require a tool or tools. And one of those tools is going to be a budget. So I'm not recommending you to make a budget. I don't recommend you making a budget just because you watched a video on, hey, somebody said go make a budget. Or you're listening to Dave Ramsey and he says go make a budget. Or you're reading the Bible and the preacher says, hey, you got to make a budget. Right? Well, who doesn't sit down and count the costs before making a project? I'm sure somebody's going to quote that and say that's why you should make a budget. But don't. Hey, if you're not ready for the budget, if you don't see for yourself that it's time to make a budget, then don't. Because anyway, it's not going to be the first step towards anything meaningful. It's going to be a tool that you use to get to where you want, or get to where you want to be. So that's all for today. Peace.